Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Are You In? Now, I hope everyone's been able to beat the heat over the last week because it's been really hot, at least in the Northeast. It's been about 90 every single day. If you hear something in the background, that is my fan because that's my only way of keeping myself cool as I get through this. But I am super excited to talk about this particular album. I've been basically ready to talk about this one for a month, but I've been putting it off for a couple of different reasons. I was trying to get to do this particular album with a friend of mine, but we never got our schedules linked up, so I'm doing this on my own, but that doesn't mean that I don't have enough to say about this album because I got plenty. So let's start tackling this. I got my timer ready, and we're going to begin. And tonight I am talking about Father John Misty's newest album entitled God's Favorite Customer. Now, for those of you who don't know who Father John Misty is, he is also known as Josh Tillman or Jay Tillman. He's an American singer, songwriter, guitarist, drummer, and record producer from Rockville, Maryland. So he was he had the stage name Jay Tillman before, and under that name he recorded 8 albums. Entitled number 1 in 2003, I Will Return in 2004, Long May You Run, Jay Tillman in 2006, Minor Works in 2006, Cancer and Delirium in 2007, Vacillando Territory Blues in 2009, Year in the Kingdom in 2009, and Singing Acts in 2010. Then he switched over to the name Father John Misty, where he has had 3 previous albums: Fear Fun in 2012, I Love You, Honey Bear in 2015, and Pure Comedy in 2017. He was also the drummer and backup vocalist for the Fleet Foxes during their second album, Helplessness Blues. So he's done a lot over the years. He's only 35 and he's accomplished a lot. I personally had not really listened to him until last year. I've heard of his album, I Love You, Honey Bear, but never took a listen to it. It wasn't until Pure Comedy last year that I delved into his work, and I loved Pure Comedy. It was, I believe, my 4th favorite album of last year. It was amazing, a very interesting concept, one that it just like sucked me in really easily, you know. It was over an hour long, but the music was beautiful, the concept was interesting, basically talking about another generation after the human generation, and them looking back on a lot of stuff that we do in wonder of why we do that. And that's the pure comedy of life, if you will. From the get-go, it just sucked me right in. If you haven't listened to it, I highly recommend it, even if it is an hour long. The only thing was there was one particular song that I didn't like that went on kind of forever, or probably would have been my number 1 album. So from there, I listened to I Love You, Honey Bear. Good album. I don't see the hype as much as Pure Comedy. I think Pure Comedy is much better, but that's just me. And then one day while working on an album review, I don't remember exactly which one, I saw an ad for God's Favorite Customer. And I thought it was like just a tour, you know, but I looked into it, and it was a whole entire new album that Father John Misty was putting out, and I was excited. And I told my friend, and she flipped out as well. So right when it came out on June 1st, listened to it again, and listened to it on repeat for a little bit. So you can probably tell what I'm going to say about this album, if I like it or not. Of course, I like this album. I talked about it in another one as one of my top 10 albums so far, and for good reason. I'll go into a little bit more depth now, but basically the idea of this album was a couple of years ago, Father John Misty had basically a psychological breakdown where he got really existential and kind of like lost track of the world, if you will. And from there, he decided to start living in a hotel room in New York away from his wife. And for 2 months he lived there and associated with just the people in the hotel, the concierge, and everything like that, and went through this depression, this anxiety, and this is his album that he wrote as he was there, and it's interesting. It's much shorter than his previous album. It's only 38 minutes long, so this is bite-sized Father John Misty, if you will, and it definitely shows that even with the bite-sizedness, he can still put out interesting lyrics and interesting music. Even if the music is mostly simplistic, I'm seeing a lot of patterns where he has a lot of times where he's just playing. If he's playing piano, it's mostly chordal work where it's just in time, like no very like complicated moving lines. It's mostly just thumping chord work, which gives his lyrics time to grow and shine, and for you to be able to listen to them rather than the music itself. I think the music itself for him is just a background to what he's trying to say, and I can commend that because the lyrics, for the most part, work very well. This is a 10-track CD, and almost all the songs hit, even if the music isn't always interesting. At best, you have interesting music that also works very well with the lyrics. At worst, you get some music that is very simple, but the lyrics themselves save it from being too simplistic. And this album goes into depth about his experiences. So from the get-go, you get Hang Out at the Gallows, which feels a lot like While My Guitar Gently Weeps in terms of some of the chord progressions. You get this sense of A minor, and then you have a bass line going down, G sharp, G, F sharp, F, and you eventually get to the F. And then you get a very interesting chord progression of A minor, G, B flat, and E. The B flat and E are tritone away. So it's one of the more complex chord progressions in his album, and there's even a nice little sharp 9 on the D chord if you are interested in that type of stuff. But the lyrics themselves are talking about his state of mind and like looking deep into it and being like, you know, basically he's looking at his psychosis and what's going on, and there's some interesting lyrics to you know, take a look into that, where it's in the chorus, it's whose bright idea was it to sharpen the knives, just 20 minutes till before the boat capsized. And it's talking about his state of mind and being like, maybe there shouldn't be like knives right here because, you know, that could set me off and something bad could happen. Or just 20 minutes before the boat capsized, as in my brain just like goes to mush, you know? And it's a beautiful way of opening up the album. Then you have a very interesting song in Mr. Tillman, which is, again, a very simplistic musical song, but it comes from it goes into the state of, the point of view of the concierge that is taking care of Mr. Tillman for the 2 months that he's there, and just talking about some of the complaints and some of the frustrations that he's feeling, and, you know, wondering if everything's all right. And the interesting thing is, this is also the moment where Jason Isbell comes to visit Josh Tillman. Jason Isbell being another like country folk singer, and to see how he's doing. And from his point of view, he can see that Tillman's not doing okay. But it's just the way that it's described, and the imagery and the way that the rhymes work are very interesting. You know, talking about like how you know, if you're going to sleep outside when it's raining, don't leave your mattress up there because it's going to start. You know, it's raining. You don't want the mattress to get broken. Just like some details of like his friend having an interesting tattoo, or, you know, Mr. Tillman, these aren't people in a movie. These aren't extras in a movie. This is the clientele, and they're not really thrilled with you saying that, oh, this is a movie, you know? So it's a very tongue-in-cheek song, but one that just describes what's going on. Then you get a more subdued song being Just Dumb Enough to Try, where it's talking about that he is a smart man, charismatic man, a person who knows how to write a song or two and woo everybody, but that what he knows about his life, he just knows that little about loving his wife and who his wife is, and it shows just like the complexity of how he feels between what he knows and what he doesn't know, even though he's been with his wife for a while. You get a song like Date Night, which honestly is my least favorite song on the album. The music isn't interesting, and the idea of him going on a date with other people, I don't think that the metaphors or the lyrics fit very well. The chorus is very blasé, very poppy, and it just doesn't work. Luckily, it's a very short song. You get a song like Please Don't Die, which is a beautiful song about looking at the state of mind, being like, you know, maybe I want to end this all, and then his wife being like, please don't leave, please don't do this to yourself, you know, I worry about you, you all that I have, and I don't want to see you die. Like, and that's a very poignant and harrowing song, you know. Another, The Palace, which, again, another one that's not great to the ears, but it does have an interesting chord progression and goes. It's one of the better piano songs. One of my favorite parts being that you have this D minor major 7 chord, which, you know, you don't usually see a major 7 on a D minor chord, which makes for this very haunting chord, and it works much better because in the chorus, Father John Misty is using that note, the major 7, and goes up to Do, into the root of the chord. So it just exemplifies that chord. But it's another song where he's thinking about his life in the palace, which is the hotel that he's staying at, and just thinking about everything that's going on. Another song that doesn't necessarily work with the metaphor sometimes. It gets a little bit cheesy, talking about like he wrote a poem, he must have been in the poem zone, or he's going to buy a pet and he's going to name it Jeff. Not great, but an interesting song. Disappointing Diamonds are the rarest of them all. Another short one where I don't like the melody, but the lyrics themselves are interesting. Talking about like using similes and metaphors about love, but we usually compared someone to a summer breeze or a beautiful flower or stuff like that, and he's comparing it to more mundane things like an oil tanker spilling over, or like the twitching of his eye that his love will never die. And it's like, you know, we try to say that all these particular romances are going to be the best in the world, they're going to be perfect, and no one wants to talk about the romances that aren't necessarily perfect but work. And I appreciate the lyrics there, and this is one of those ones where the lyrics themselves save a pretty mediocre melody. Then it gets to my favorite song, like I was saying, God's Favorite Customer, where this feels more classical rock-ish, and the lyrics themselves are beautiful, talking about his state of mind at 5 o'clock in the morning, being all by himself, and feeling like he needs someone there. And, you know, praying to a God that he doesn't necessarily believe in. Because, side note, he was going to be a pastor, and then realized he didn't really believe in God. So he decided not to pursue that. It's another one of these beautiful songs that just works perfectly. It's another one that I want to eventually cover. Then you get the last 2 songs, which are The Songwriter, which is kind of now getting to the point where he's starting to understand how he feels about his wife and the mistakes that he's made along the way. But now he's asking more on the other side, being like, if we switch our roles, where I was the muse and you were the songwriter, how would you portray me? Would you portray me more in an artistic sense, where you kind of misconstrue some of the things and hyperbolize some of my great things but also my flaws? Or would you kind of leave me alone, but, you know, be more honest about me? Because from what I'm understanding, he kind of did a little bit of both, and it didn't necessarily work. Like, where he basically undressed her in public, even though she had nothing to do with any of this. It's the idea of, as a songwriter, you have certain inspirations, and she is his muse, and sometimes that's good and sometimes it's bad. Um, so it's being like, okay, how much can I tell about us, and how much should I keep secret? And what I love about it, honestly, and I am going to go a little bit over, but that's fine. This is one that definitely deserves a little bit more talking. Um, what I love is the last line, where um, I think is, what if you were the songwriter and your love of me was your unsung masterpiece? Where it's being like, even everything that I say, there's a lot of stuff that they don't know that I say to you that is personal to us. And no matter what I say, there's still going to be that. And I think that's beautiful. And it's one of the better songs to end with. But unfortunately, there is one more song, and it's not bad. It's so we're only people, and there's nothing much anyone can do about that. And it's kind of getting to the point where I think he's getting out of this psychosis, and he's starting to understand his life, his role, and like that, he can't be perfect because no one is, and we're only people, and there's nothing we can do about that other than to be with each other and be with people that you care about and try to help people out, but also understand their flaws and not get so worked up about it. And I think that's an awesome message to end this with. But it gets a little bit weird at the end. It just ends a little bit weird for me, and that's maybe the inconclusive way that he wanted to end this, because even with these thoughts, it's not necessarily a moral victory, It's kind of more of like, it's not necessarily a defeatist purpose, but it's the idea of, okay, I can't feel this way because we're all like this, and then we're all going to die eventually, so why should I feel this way? So it's not necessarily like I found the answer. It's kind of like, we all kind of feel this way, let's just get over it. And maybe that's why it's inconclusive. But for me, it doesn't necessarily work as an ending song. And that's like one of my only gripes about it, is just that. And then again, some like Date Night, don't really like it. Could have done without it. But all in all, it's a very introspective album for him, because he's being more introspective about himself rather than the world around him. And you can definitely feel that. Like, I've been there before. I've been there, not necessarily to that point, but I've been outside my mind thinking about life and thinking about how the world works, and having my own existential crisis before. And I can understand, I can be in his shoes about that. But what I love is just the poignancy of all these, all the lyrics, and how the music is beautiful at most times, but very simplistic, so that you can get a hold onto these lyrics. Like, honestly, I remember listening to it like for the third or fourth time a week after it came out, and being like, I mostly remember these words, like word for word, and was singing along with it. And that is a very amazing thing to be able to do. Like, because I listen to a lot of music, and even still, some of my favorite albums, there's still lyrics that I don't remember, or after listening to it over and over again, I finally get there. But I can't think of a time where I only listened to a CD for a week and was able to remember every single word to an album. And that in and of itself is an amazing thing, because then that your lyrics are important, and your lyrics have cool messages and interesting, and are just interesting in general. So I commend him for that, and to be able to do it after just putting out an amazing album. This is going to be, I think this will stay in my top 10 for the year. I don't know where it's going to be, but it's really good. So if you've been interested in Father John Misty, and you've never gotten into him because he's a little bit out there, or you just didn't know where to start, I think this is a good place to start. It's 38 minutes, it's 10 songs. A lot of these songs end very shortly. I think most of them are under 3 minutes, which I think is very good for, you know, the bite size for it is. But I would say the music on Pure Comedy is much better, but the simplicity of the music is going to draw you in. The lyrics are going to draw you in, and you're going to just connect with it the way that Father John Misty wants you to. It's an awesome album, and it's a must listen to if you haven't listened to it yet. If you're a Father John Misty fan, listen to it immediately. If you've been trying to get into him, this is a perfect way of jumping on, and then go to Pure Comedy. I think I still like Pure Comedy better in terms of the complexity of it and just the interesting concept and the better music. But this is right up there as like my number 2 album by him. If you are interested, if you're not interested, like if you're not in that group, I would say listen to it. If you look for simplistic music and interesting, introspective lyrics, if you like that stuff, go for it. I would basically recommend it to anybody. So that's my time. I went a little bit over, but I wanted to talk a lot about this. So if you enjoyed this, of course, take a listen. But first off, of course, if you like this video, like the video, of course, comment on it. Tell me about other albums that you would like me to review, or your personal thoughts on this album. Subscribe to my channel so you can see more of my RU-ins, as well as other stuff that I do. Share this with your friends, and just keep watching my videos. So I'm going to, of course, place my RU-in playlist on here so you can see other ones that I do. I'm going to put the actual album so you can listen to it. And then I'm also going to send a link to my cover of Hang Out at the Gallows. And thank you so much for people who have been watching it. It's actually one of my quickest, my most watched videos. And it's only been out for a couple of weeks. And it's almost at 100 views, which is incredible in seeing all my other stuff. So thank you so much for watching. If you haven't watched it yet, take a look. I think I did a very good job on it. I think I'll probably do God's Favorite Customer as a cover at some point in time. But anyways, I'm excited for this particular week. So I'm really excited for this discography project that I'm working on. I've been working on it. I've been getting through most of the albums that I'm going to be talking about on it. And yeah, I'm really excited. You know what? I'm just going to tell you who it is. My first one I'm going to be doing is Linkin Park. So get ready for that on Thursday. We'll be diving into the first album of their discography on Thursday. I have some cover songs I've been working on, so I already have that set. And I have another awesome album review that I'm going to be talking about on Sunday that I'm super excited about. I just listened to it, and